Robbie Lawler was out of control.
This is Double Cross, the murder of Robbie Lawler.
It was going to be an all-out war with him in the middle of it.
A Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts.
I went bloody white. Blood went down to my feet. We asked the reception for MTK. Told us he's on the 22nd floor. We went up and went in and asked for Daniel. Not under investigation, under a persecution, under a witch hunt.
In part one of our three-part interview with election candidate and veteran criminal Gerry The Monk Hutch, we discuss the roots of the feud, coming face to face with Daniel Kinahan, and the moment the gunmen came for him on the island of Lanzarote. As Hutch formally becomes an election candidate, we discuss with him the turbulent years leading up to his trial for murder at the Special Criminal Court, which ended last year when he was found not guilty. This is Crime World. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts. And you can watch all three parts over the coming days on our YouTube channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications to get each part as it appears. So in 2013, the Sunday World were uninvited guests at your 50th birthday party in Lanzarote.
Yeah.
You went to Lanzarote about 2012, I think, and
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
you have property there. You sort of, well, it's described, I think, certainly in the media that you're retired out there or whatever. But you're out there, you host a pretty extravagant 50th birthday party, and we did send a photographer out there. There was a photograph of you. You had a few drinks, which sort of completely debunked the myth.
No, but it was a good headline, Drunk as a Monk.
Drunk as a Monk. It was a great headline. I hope you kept the front page. But anyway, there was a little bit of argy-bargy there, but that was your 50th, right? And whatever else it was a time for you of celebration. All your friends are there. You have made it, you're living a life that people could only dream of, in the sun and all the rest of it. And 10 years later, your 60th birthday, it's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
You're behind bars. You're facing a murder charge in the Special Criminal Court with a huge conviction rate. And if convicted, you've got a mandatory sentence of life in prison. Yeah. Now, a lot happened between those two times, but it's just such a stark contrast, those two major birthdays, I suppose, aren't they? But from 2013, after that birthday, you sort of stay in Lanzarote until you're drawn back. And certainly the narrative that we have had as a media in this whole thing is that you were drawn back to mediate in a row between your nephew Gary and Daniel Kinahan. And you hopefully will tell us about that from your point of view, because we have always been telling the story secondhand, I suppose. So what happened?
I got a sec now.
Gary's living in Spain with Daniel.
Gary's living in Spain with Daniel Kinahan and whoever else they're associating with. And it appears a boxer got shot.
Mm-hmm.
Moore.
Jamie Moore, yeah.
The boxer. He got shot. And in the heat of the hunt, Gary got the blame for it. Or Gary's brother, one or the other, they got the blame for it. And so it was a dangerous situation, obviously they wanted to retaliate and whatever, and so Daniel got in contact with me, and because I think Gary was gone, Gary got offside or whatever, and so Daniel got in touch with me. He wanted to organise a meeting. I told him no interest, not involved with you or your gang or any use. Don't want to know. And he pleaded with me to get involved, and so I did. I got in touch with Gary and I got in back to Daniel, and I organised a meet for both of them. And they had a meet and they came to some arrangement, people talk about his father was involved, this was involved. There was no one involved. There was Daniel, and he had one or two friends with him, and there was Gerry, and I think he probably had someone with him, and they sit down and they sorted it out. To the fine detail of it, I don't know, but they gave each other the word. They came out and they were talking to me then. They said, we're at to coming to a conclusion, shook hands, and we're moving forward, we're going our own way. And that was fine, so it was sorted. I was in the middle, mediating, put the two of them together, didn't listen to their conversations or anything, and they sorted it. There was talk of money being paid or this or that. I don't know to the full extent. And that was the deal done. And then Gerry gets killed then a couple of months later. And then Daniel tells everyone it was the Russians, as he does, and it was people from Manchester, and so on and so on. And he tried to make contact with me, and I didn't have anything to do with him. So that was 15.
And did you know Daniel Kinahan before all of this? Had you come across
I didn't know him to see.
Yeah.
Did you know the father?
I'd met the father once, years ago. He was with my brother Eddie. When I met him with Eddie, just hello. Very well-spoken chap, and, couldn't say anything bad about the man. He just seemed a nice chap,
Yeah.
This might seem obvious to you, but I'm going to ask it anyway. But why did Daniel Kinahan come to you?
I don't know. Like, he'd... everyone in Ireland and Dublin that knows me would know I don't bullshit and I take no messing, and I say it as it is. And sometimes it's not the right thing, but that's the way I am. And he knew I would have been able to get Gerry and I'd been able to get him, and there would have been trust on both sides. And I'd have picked a neutral place for them to go, and no one would have known, and they'd done their own thing. So maybe that. He maybe thought I was the best one in the house to approach, something like that. I can't be sure.
You're seen as an elder and as a sort of a mediator and somebody who is coming at this with the old rules of what we call gangland, and maybe those rules that you describe from your childhood, that you don't do this, you do this, you don't do this. There are a set of rules that are maybe embedded in you culturally nearly.
Yeah.
And do those rules mean that a man's word is his word? And
they do.
Yeah,
it should be. Well,
So you make an agreement, you shake hands, and that's it. Yeah, there's an agreement made. Whatever the money has been described as 200,000 was paid over for it. It's very difficult for us to know exactly, but that's in and around the amount of money. That money was paid over. Gerry is killed, and it's put out that the Russians did it. And that is that a complete break with those sort of old rules?
Well, if you do a deal with someone, and it's like, it'd be something like the Good Friday Agreement, that they'd done an agreement up there. If someone let a bomb off the next day, it's hell, you can't. It's over. And they're dealing with the devil at this stage, And
what did you straight away know that it wasn't the Russians? Did you have that belief that the double cross had occurred straight away?
When Gerry got killed, the blind man could see who'd done it.
Yeah.
And there was a few people, I think, nicked for it. That's what happened. And
were you shocked?
Yeah, totally shocked. Yeah.
What were your impressions of Daniel Kinahan when you talked to him?
When that happened?
No, when you met him,
Yeah, he came across okay. He came across a strong person, and I didn't really know him that well, and I just took him at face value, and they came to their arrangement and went their own way, and so.
So the next really, I suppose, if when we do the timelines of these things, we always come then to Lanzarote, when basically people come to kill you. That's at that Christmas or just after Christmas.
So Gerry was killed in September 2015, I think, by the New Year's Eve of that year. You're back in Lanzarote. You're out for a drink?
Yeah. Well, in fact, the way it happened is just over the Christmas, I get a phone call from a woman that I know. Don't know her that well, but I know her. She's from the area. And she asked me, was I going to Lanzarote over the Christmas? I said, yeah, I'll be over in late December, over after the Christmas. And she said if she could link up. I said, oh, we probably will, we'll see. And we didn't intentionally link up, but we bumped into her. And she was working on behalf of Daniel Kinahan. And she set me up and walked me straight into a trap for 2 hitmen to kill me.
So you're in a pub, are you? And you
I'm
see
in a
them.
pub, yeah. I'm in one pub and we leave it and we go to another pub and she's talking to my wife and asking her where are you going, and my wife doesn't know anything about anything and she tells her where we're going. I didn't really put her on her guard or anything. And she asked my wife to stay with her, let him go around on his own. And my wife found that very strange and said that to me. She said, stay here and let you go on your own. Now, there was alarm bells ringing from the day she rang me. But then when she said that in the pub, and there was lots of other incidents in between as well. And so we went into a new bar anyway, and I've changed my top on me, and we got dressed up for the New Year's party with the stuff you put on your head and the whistle you blow. And I'm watching the door, and I see these 2 gunmen coming in. It's been reported I left out the back door. No back door in this pub. I stayed in the pub. I hid in the pub. And they went into the toilet and back out. One of them was blind as a bat. He wears heavy glasses and he couldn't see with the glasses off. He took his glasses off as a disguise. The 2 of them are doing life in prison at the moment.
And Gerry, when you say you hid in the pub,
The pub was chock-a-blocked.
Yeah. So what did you do?
I just hid behind a pillar.
Right. And you watched them
Yeah.
coming in,
Passed by the pillar.
looking for you.
Yeah. And they went into the toilet and then they came back out. I was afraid there was someone standing outside as well, so I didn't want to walk out in case they had a gunman outside. So I let them walk past. I took a chance. But for them to do in the pub was very, to pull back your arm and try to give someone a dig, you'd nearly hit someone. To pull a gun out of your pocket, you'd nearly be hitting someone. It was that packed, the pub,
And you don't think they were spotting for you? You think they had guns with them? They were ready to kill you?
They had masked up the head and baseball caps on them. They had 2 guns.
Did you see them again? Did you recognise them? Did you?
I didn't really recognise them. No,
Yeah.
I didn't know them at that stage. But then that happened that night, so we.
I'm going to take it you went home after that.
No, I stayed in the pub.
Right.
My wife said, "Get out of here." I said, "It's the safest pub in Lanzarote. They're after being here." And we stayed and had a few more beers and went home. Obviously, I had a few beers on me. I had probably a bit more courage. So the next day, about 4:00, I'm in another bar and the same thing happens. I'm in a bar and just having a quick bottle with a friend of mine, and I leave the bar and I go across the road to another bar and I see this gunman coming in again. And he walked in he was going into the bar where I was. And it was like at an angle that I seen him. I went bloody white. Blood went down to my feet. So I just stood up, picked the bottle up and walked towards him rather than run away from him. And as I got towards him, he just kept walking. He didn't see me.
No glasses on?
Yeah, he didn't see me, so I just went the other way and left him. Went into the pub. I got the video clippings of the pub and seen them all walking around looking for me.
So how does that feel? Did you ever think they'd come for you?
No, I didn't think that, But at the same time, that phone call spooked me and my senses, my gut feeling, I knew there was, bad. So I was lucky to survive, I suppose.
So then, obviously, for us, then the next thing is the Regency Hotel shooting occurs in February. Now we're going to go back into that when we go through the trial.
We're going to put stuff to you about the Regency that was, brought up during the trial, and so for the purposes of the next kind of thing that impacts you as much is we're going to say that immediately after the Regency, as we know, your family starts getting targeted. Do you want to talk about that?
Not really, no.
Okay. It's something maybe you don't feel able to talk about.
No, I'd rather not.
Okay. But one way or another, in the aftermath of your brother Eddie's death, and he was killed within days of the Regency, you realise you have to leave Ireland. I mean, there's a bounty on your head.
Yeah.
So you're sort of out there in the ether. We don't really know where you are, obviously, certainly as a media anyway, we don't know where you are. What did you do and where did you go?
The police came out to me and told me there was a threat in my life. They gave me a GIM, and I asked them, what does this contain? Am I entitled to any protection or any rights or this or that? They told me little things which was of little value. Just watch your back. Wouldn't tell me who, when, where or what. So I decided to go away. So I said, I'm better off just taking a trip out of this country for a year or two. I was living in Lanzarote at the time, so it wasn't too hard, So I was moving around because they were in Lanzarote again, I've lots of friends over there and lots of people that can tell me what's going on, who's coming in, who's going on. I hear the grass growing over there. And so I didn't always stay there. I went to Spain. I went all over Europe. And, I got on with it. And it's actually awful stop going through the airport with the customs. And it's such a bunch of keys. I had about 22 keys at different premises from Dublin, Belfast, Europe, Spain, everywhere. I had friends everywhere. There's the key in my house. If I'm not there, just feel free to use it and stuff like that. Stopped by customs. What's this? There keys, I'm a landlord. But, I didn't want to tell them to our friends' houses. And I just got through it, got on with it,
Do you find out who your friends are?
Yeah, well, a lot of friends stood by me. People think they didn't. I've got a lot of friends who have never been in trouble in their life, and that's, straight-going people who I have a drink with and socialise with. And some people think, oh, your friends left you, they wouldn't do... My friends wouldn't do a criminal activity. I wouldn't ask somebody to go and do something illegal. These are friends. They'd let you stay in the house and stuff like that. Don't expect them to break the law or of any description. I wouldn't even ask them. People get this conception of so-called gangland that everyone's a gang. Most of the friends I have, I socialise with are all law-abiding citizens and all work.
But they're good friends, obviously. I mean, the Kinahan cartel are this mighty, ferocious force at that point who are wreaking murder on this city, and you are one of their number one targets. So, a good friend will be giving you the key of their house to stay the night.
Yeah. I stayed a month or a week or whatever.
And did you come back into Ireland during those years at times? Because there was always reports I did.
I came back and forward, but I would have more so northern end of it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it'd be more up the north of Ireland with people up there rather than down the south. And would have been in the south in that time, but more so up north. And
So
more comfortable up there,
Did you go to Dubai?
Yeah, I've been to Dubai, I've been to Thailand, I've been to all around that end of the world.
There was one story, I don't know whether it's true or not, but that you maybe rattled up to near the offices of MTK, which was obviously the Kinahan boxing.
Yeah, I was in Dubai with a friend of mine, and we went into this big building, maybe 40-story, and we asked a reception for MTK. Told us he's on the 22nd floor. We went up and went in and asked for Daniel and asked for Sandra Vaughan. They told us to take a seat and tell us in a few minutes, and they came back out and said they're not in the country.
Bob, were you going to talk to him?
I don't know.
Yeah,
You know, it's a situation where you're going into a place to see somebody, and it's not a situation where you go in the bathroom and look in the mirror and say, I'm telling you this.
yeah,
I'm that.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I was in the area and I said, I'm going in here.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of them things. It's probably the cheekiness of me. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
So as all of these years are going by, there is still a Garda investigation into the Regency Hotel. There's an initial trial where your nephew Patrick Hutch, that's a null prosequi, is entered. He walks out of court, but there is still a Garda investigation going on. Are you aware then that the guards are looking at you, and you know that they're still very focused on the Regency Hotel?
Yeah, they were very focused, and they were still trying to get to charge people and to charge Patrick, and the evidence they had, you know, it didn't work for them.
Yeah.
They didn't want to show their hand. I wonder what their hand was. Didn't want to show emails. There was situations where that young lad was charged, and the prosecution was saying A, B, C, and D, and then his defence got on top of them, and he wanted to see emails where there was guards asked to go out to Ballymun and pick out one of the Hutches and do this and do that, and all that shit went on, and they couldn't show their hand at the end of the day, so they had to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Your arrest in Fungarola in 2021 was really sensational news here, but it wasn't that big a surprise to you, maybe.
No.
But you were sitting in a restaurant. Had you eaten?
No, I was just at the going in, and I was at the ordering a bottle of wine, and I was waiting then for that to come, and they pounced on top of me like a ton of rocks.
Right.
One grabbed each hand and into the toilet. Very professional they were.
There was a guard there, of course, as well, was
Oh,
there?
there was a guard there, yeah, in the middle of August wearing a raincoat.
Yeah.
With a guard sign on the back of it.
Yeah.
The woolly jumper, probably.
But did you know that was coming? Like, but like what, you know?
I know it was eventually going to come. Yeah, you know.
You weren't planning to.
No, I wasn't going off to Asia or Dubai or anything. I was in Spain, and I was staying in Spain. There was a warrant out for me. I was going to go home as the trial got nearer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be in custody as long.
Yeah.
As you were.
So it was just buying time. I knew I was going home. There was a warrant out for me. They had a book of evidence with my name in the book of evidence. I was coming home to hand myself in probably 2 months beforehand.
Right.
But why sit in custody for all that time? But
Yeah.
they caught me and they brought me back.
Yeah.
You know.
And the journalists waiting at the special criminal court were tracking the flight as it made its way to Baldonnel. It's the first time I ever saw that you can actually watch the flight as it comes across. And that's kind of how it was a big news story here. It was
Yeah,
a huge news
massive,
story.
yeah.
Massive, massive. And you appeared in court looking like, I think I wrote, the man from Del Monte. You were all tanned and you had a sort of a summer suit on you. You've been picked up in Spain in August. And you're placed in custody. And we're going to actually, at this point, bring in Ali Bracken from the Sunday Independent, our sister newspaper here. Ali Bracken has been covering the story of your sort of interest and now, attempts to go for the Dáil. But she was also at the Regency trial with us, covered every day of it as well. So, and she has some questions she's going to put to you, in particular about your political aspirations. Ali, welcome aboard.
How's it going? How are you?
Good, good. We're talking about custody time when the Regency trial is upcoming, and Gerry Hutch has been returned to Ireland and obviously has found himself in custody again for the first time in decades. But he's in the company of a guy called Jonathan Dowdall, who is a co-accused in this murder trial.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose what I wonder is, Gerry, was Jonathan Dowdall like a good friend of yours?
No, he wasn't a friend of mine at all. He was a friend of me, some of my brothers probably, you know.
Okay.
So what was it like going back in to prison after so long? And, you know, were you confident or were you concerned about... I mean, look, the Special Criminal Court, as we mentioned, has a high conviction rate. There's very few go in and get out. But, and it's a really heavy charge you're facing. It's murder. You obviously read the Book of Evidence.
Yeah.
And what did you feel when you read
I read
it?
the Book of Evidence. There was no evidence. You know, they had audio evidence, and everyone was high up on this audio evidence as, you know, I didn't hear the audio evidence. But when you're in a car with somebody for 10 hours talking, I mean, you could probably say the wrong thing or not meaning it, but I eventually got to hear the audio evidence, and there was nothing in the audio evidence.
And did you recall the conversation? You know, when you heard there was audio evidence and you knew you'd been in the car with him for 10 hours. It's a long time. Were you anyway worried? Or did you remember that trip? And
No, I remember the trip, but like, I mean, when I was getting charged with murder, I knew I didn't do the murder, and there's no way I would have said I'd done the murder in the car because I knew I didn't. So there wasn't, you know.
Well, I mean, obviously then you're in prison and Jonathan Dowdall's in the same wing.
Yeah.
Are you suspicious of him at this point? Do you feel like what's going to happen?
Well, Jonathan was in a bad way.
Yeah.
You know, he was at the butt end of a long stretch that he was after getting. And he was on every type of drug he could get his hands on, and he was complaining about this and complaining about that, and he was finding it very difficult in there. So then he gets the bail with no objections. So...
This is after he's completed his sentence for torturing a young man over a bike or whatever.
Yeah.
So he gets bail. Like he's finished that sentence, but he's charged with murder. So he still gets bail in between, which is unusual, I think.
Yeah.
Was that alarm bells for you when he suddenly gets out on bail then?
Yeah, well, when he gets out on bail and there's no objections to bail, when there was other two accused was charged with lesser offences and they objected to their bail. Yeah, they kind of said, what's happening here? Like, what type of a trap is this that they're pulling here, you know?
Did you feel from that from an early on point that he was turning tout against you, I suppose?
I wouldn't be, I would like to say tout, but it's not even tout. He's going to tell a load of lies about me. That's basically what it is, you know? Yeah, I suspected he was going to try to go state evidence.
so how are you feeling in prison? And, you know, there's long periods of time that you're on your own, and it's obviously a place where you can reflect on lots of things that have happened in your life. And, you know, I kind of get the impression prison is boring. Maybe it's not. Maybe you have loads of things to do.
It's pretty boring, all
It's
right.
pretty boring. So you're kind of like with your thoughts.
Oh yeah, you have plenty of reflections of your life that's gone by it, and it's probably a good thing as well. You know, you have plenty of time to think. Probably sometimes too much time to think. If you're not a strong person, you might think too much, and you might take the rope.
Yeah.
You know, so I was all right there. I got through it, and I did reflect on a lot of things in my life. And I tried to benefit from them now. I don't like wasting time, you know, in a cell. I done a lot of reading, particularly reading on the evidence, and went over it a few times. And there was no evidence. In fact, the audio evidence, it kind of proved it wasn't me that done the murder in the Regency. And that helped me get off on my trial.
So the Book of Evidence kind of kept you going.
Yeah.
Because you felt confident.
There was no evidence in the Book of Evidence, like, I mean.
And what other kind of things, like, kept you going? Is it thoughts of your family? Do you have to presumably stay positive?
Oh, you have to say 100% positive. And I would have been out in the yard as often as I could, which the maximum would have been 2 hours. 1 hour, you were only getting, but I got an extra hour. And I was happy enough to get out in the yard in the morning and the afternoon. Just to get out of you know.
Did you do any of the educational courses or anything, Gerry? I was wondering. Did you study at all?
We weren't allowed. We were segregated. We were in a confinement where there was 16 cells and there was only 8 of us on the landing, so there was 8 spare cells. But it was kind of like people who were associated with us were put on that landing to kind of protect us and to protect the officers in case there's a row that no officer get injured and all stuff like that, which makes it much harder in prison, you know.
So you didn't get to maybe avail of some of the things that maybe the normal prison population would, but then maybe there was other benefits, like you say.
There wasn't. It's tough to be in a prison within a prison. Like, there's work parties, you can go out and do garden parties, you can go to school, there's lots of things you can do, but we weren't allowed to do any of that.
Did you have dark days when you can't always presumably stay positive in the face of that, you know, knowing what you're up against and what the outcome will be if it goes wrong for you? You must have...
I kind of kept positive. You know, I had my legal team coming up to me and they were telling me things and this and that, and I was happy enough that if I got justice, I was walking out, you know.
Did you have plenty of doubts that you wouldn't, or did you always feel that you were going to walk away from that murder charge?
No, I felt I was going to walk away from the murder charge if I got justice. I was very concerned about the court.
Given that it was the special criminal court.
Yeah, because it probably has a 98% of conviction rate. You know, so I was concerned about that. But like at the same time, there was so much coverage of the whole trial. The trial might as well have been outside the GPO. The whole country were listening and watching, which I felt there was good benefit for me out of that, you know.
Yeah, there was a bit of a row every day trying to get in to get a seat to be able to hear it. It certainly was one of the biggest trials we've covered. And obviously...
well, I mean, the centre point of that trial was Jonathan Dowdall on the stand. I mean, how many days was it?
7, was it?
7 or 8?
7 days, yeah.
How did you feel when you... Because this man is really...
Well, I tried to make eye contact with him because I have a hearing problem and I couldn't really... I'd like to see someone's eyes in the mouth when I'm talking to them, and he wouldn't look.
Yeah.
You know, he wouldn't look at me.
Like, I remember being in trial and, like, ultimately Tara Burns would reference this as well, that the state's case was not just that you were involved in the planning of the Regency, but that you were actually the gunman who pulled the trigger. I mean, I remember that being taken aback when I heard that. I mean, was that put to you? How did you feel when that case was made? Like,
well, when the minute he said that, I knew, like, this is a total bloody setup. You know, that you're one of the gunmen dressed up as a policeman coming into this place. That was the opening of their case.
Yes.
You know.
Had you heard that before?
No.
No. So you were...
I was the same as you was. When the state opened their case, they said that we're going to put it to you that Mr. Hutch was one of the gunmen dressed up as a police officer that went in that thing. I said, I knew at that stage that Jonathan Dowdall was going to say, I told him that because I got that paperwork at that stage, you know.
Yeah. But it was. So they were the bits of the case. There was Jonathan Dowdall's testimony. When he was given that testimony, did you think it was going well for you or going badly? Do you know what I mean?
No, but when I read he was going to give that testimony, like, I mean, it's very hard to say, you know, this is not going to go down well. You have a guy that's in a car with for 10 hours and he's going to tell the court that you told him that. You know, but I'm alleged to have told him in a park and then somewhere else, or his phone or somewhere else. But when we listened to the audio, the audio contradicted.
It did. I
his
mean,
stuff.
which again, Tara Burns pointed out with the bit where you say even the 6 people don't know who they are, or something along those lines. That was also referenced in the judgment, because it did seem to contradict it.
I think during the trial, it was also the first time we heard of the existence of the Hutch organised crime group as such. That had never been said before a court before. We were all aware of various people with the name Hutch who might have been involved in criminality, but that there was this organised crime group. And I think Detective Superintendent David Gallagher gave evidence that it was a familial grouping, that it was fluid in that sometimes it worked together, sometimes it didn't, and that it had a patriarchal structure. In the judgment...
No, he wasn't giving that about me.
He was giving that about the Hutch organised crime group.
Which wasn't included in me, and it was made crystal clear by my counsel that his evidence is not against me. It was against the other 2 lads. That's what he'd given her. That was made 100% clear.
And in her judgment, Justice Tara Burns described you as the head of the family, or the patriarch of the family. Was that it?
The head of the family.
The head of the family.
I think it was the figurehead and the patriarch of the Hutch organised crime gang, I think is what she said.
She didn't. She said a head of the family.
Of the head of the family?
I stepped in as head of the family because my life was in danger as well at this stage.
To sort out, obviously, issues that were arising because of the feud, because of shootings and murders that were happening, that you stepped in to try and sort things out, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she also said that nothing would have happened without your say-so in terms of the Regency, that wouldn't, nothing of such significance, given your role as the patriarch of the family, that nothing could happen without your say-so.
No, I don't remember that. I do remember her saying that I was the head of the family.
Yeah.
And I stepped in to try to stop this from going on.
Yeah. And I think she said stuff about the weapons as well that were used.
Well, what she said about the weapons was that from March the 7th, whatever date, that you had control of those weapons. It doesn't say that's what can be said for sure. It doesn't say that you had control of the weapons when they were used in the Regency. But
after it, yeah, after the Regency.
Well, whatever.
Oh yeah, no, like that. Look, that was just the evidence from the special criminal court. Like obviously they found you not guilty of the murder of David Byrne. That must have been some moment, I suppose.
I don't doubt that to be telling lies.
Yeah, they had a lot to say about Dowdall and his evidence. Yeah, for sure.
So they brought me back on audio evidence, which was of no value, and they would have listened to it. Loads of police officers have listened to that and went through it in a fine-tooth comb to see what's happening, and there was nothing. And they still brought me back and charged me, and then they brought Dowdall in. Mm-hmm. They got Dowdall to tell lies on behalf of the state and let him off with murder. He was charged with murder. They let him off with murder and gave him a smaller charge to convict an innocent man with murder. And the judges could see through it. The public could see through it. Everyone could see through it. But the guards didn't give a damn. They let a man that they could have convicted, he booked a hotel and he was involved in other stuff after. He was connected before and after. And he let him off to hang me. And I'm glad everyone's seen through it.
And why do you think, Gerry, that happened?
Because the police bloody hate me. That's all I can say. And they do anything to get that piece of flesh. They don't want me to run as a politician either.
I think the Gardaí and the Spanish police would maybe have a different take on that. They have insisted that there was an ongoing investigation, and they would say that there was, the timing was nothing more than coincidence.
They would say it. They would say they didn't get Jonathan Dowdall to tell lies as well. And they'd say a lot of things. I disagree, 100%. Rumours
you
went
ever-
around I was running as a politician. They come over to Lanzarote, raid me, take me out, and they say, that's a Spanish job. It's nothing to do with us. There were 7 guards from Dublin in my house in Lanzarote, 3 or 4 from the Criminal Assets Bureau and others. There was 7 in total. They get him into prison there. He won't be running for any election. But I got the bail and I'm back home, and I hope to be running for the election. I will be running for it. And whatever happens, happens. If people vote for me, good. If they don't vote for me, so be it. I'll just continue on with my life, hopefully. If the guards don't try and nick me again for something else.
Is that a concern? Like, do you think you're under investigation for other matters here in Ireland?
Not under investigation, under a persecution, under a witch hunt from the guards. And I don't know if it's part of the state as well, but definitely the guards.
Where do you feel that's coming from? Is it because they haven't been able to, they suspect that you have been involved in certain things and they haven't been able to bring you before the courts or convict you on it? Is that why?
It probably is. They're probably frustrated. I don't know. But I mean, they brought me back from Spain on a murder charge without evidence, and then introduced evidence in the last hour of a lawyer who they were dealing with, and dropped his charges and try to lock me up. It's a mockery on behalf of the guards.
I mean, the guards would say in the Regency that they followed the evidence that was there and they built the case, and that case was accepted by the DPP. That's the case that they would make.
They tormented the DPP, and the DPP ran with it. And the judge said in the court, I wonder where this case would have went if there was no Jonathan Dowdall here. There was no case.
Yeah.
That brings us really to, before we go forward, to what happened in Lanzarote and the election. But it brings us to that day of judgment. And I often thought about what it must have felt like to be lying in that prison that night before that judgment. And there is so much at stake. If you're found guilty, you're going away for life. You're going to be in that prison for life, and probably for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Given that you've turned 60 in prison, life is whatever. I mean, it's a long time, and you have your family, you have your now grown-up children, your grandchildren, you have your life, you have all the things you enjoy, and you are facing, it's up to 3 people really, whether you lose that forever or you walk out that door to freedom. So, like, did you sleep a wink the night before?
I did. It wasn't bad sleeping the night before. It was, I actually had a pain in my tummy on the way down to the court that morning.
Sure you did.
And other days I had, in fairness, but that morning I just got a pain in the tummy. And I was in the holding cell downstairs, and an ACO officer, prison officer, came in and said, how are you, Gerry? He said, if you get off here today, what's your plan, security-wise? I said, who wants to know that? He said, the guards outside, your escort. I said, that's good news, I said. You hear that? They're planning that it's 50-50. Well, I said, they're planning to bring me home now, Eddie. I said it's 50-50. The whole country knows it's 50-50, you know. I said, tell them I'll be making my own way home. I'll be getting the Lewis. I'll be walking out the court, out the front door.
And then you did, of course, walk out the front door.
Yeah.
And it was Sky News and BBC, not just the
No,
Irish
yeah,
media.
yourselves.
And
Like
myself,
ourselves,
and myself.
yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
a bodyguard, an unexpected
We
bodyguard.
had Kevin Costner come on the scene, yeah.
But I mean, like, what do you do in that moment, though? You're standing there, you're waiting for that judgment. You must have to put your fate in something that's bigger than, like, do you believe in God?
I believe in a higher spirit, suppose. I don't know if I believe in God. I probably don't know, because I was probably forced to believe in God by the Catholic Church. But I do believe in a higher power. I'd have faith, and, you know, things do happen. Good things do happen as well.
And did you put your faith in that higher power, whatever that is, or whoever has gone before you, or whoever it is that you sort of feel was looking out for you that day? Is
I
that
did. Definitely. I had my guardian angels over my head. I felt that, you know. So I walked out of court and went home. I actually went down to Shamrock to Emma Street on the way home and dropped off to a few houses around.
Did you? You were kind of in a bit of a blur. I remember speaking to you just briefly down in the round room there before you went out, and I remember just saying to you, there's a lot of people outside waiting for you. How are you getting home? And you just said, I'm just going out that door. I'm just walking out that front door. And out you came into a sea of photographers and journalists, and there was horns beeping, passers-by, you know, taxi drivers. It was quite an incredible thing to witness, to be there for, and to see the support that you got from whoever was passing by at that point, you know, people of the city, people of Dublin, and they were on your side.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I enjoyed it, and I'd like to just say something that I meant to say at the start of this. I'd like to thank the people of Ireland, all over Ireland, for sending in postcards, part of PO cards, birthday cards, lighting candles, all that type of stuff. Very emotion, very, very emotion.
And why do you think that people connected with that to you, like?
I don't know, really. You know, well, I know I'm not a bad person, and I'm an approachable person by anybody. Like, I remember opening some of them cards, you know, when you're in the cell on your own, and tears,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Really emotion and sad. No, very good.
And is that inspiring this desire to become involved in politics, do you think?
Well, I've always had a bit of politician in me there, you know, through over the years, mediating and with people, helping people and doing stuff like that. Being a politician for the last 40 years, really, you know.
In that community?
Yeah, in the community, not unofficial.
Yeah.
Unofficial politician.